Hi there, I'm Joey.
I'm Jacob.
And we are watching Star Trek for the first time. Last time on Star Trek, what did we have? That's right, we had we had lip syncing, we had a bluff, we had Corbomite and all that shit. It was actually a pretty fun episode.
It was a fun episode. I
really like that. So today we are starting our very first two-parter, and as I understand it, the only two-parter of the original series. I don't think we'll get two-parters again until the Next Generation. So this is a surprisingly unique experience for now.
You think there'd be more?
Yeah. So today we're watching.
Civilization was the name of the game, as I understand.
Yeah, well, certainly not for a show like this, as far as I've seen. You know, it's very episodic. But in this case, today we are watching part 1 of the Menagerie, which, as I understand it, is mostly like that. The only thing I know is that it's your replacement for the pilot if you don't watch the pilot,
which we did not.
I think it's like. As far as I know, they wanted to find a way to use the footage from the pilot while still sort of telling a new story, I think.
Oh boy, this will be interesting
then. That's all I know. I know nothing else beyond that. So we shall see. So we're going to get into post-episode thoughts for part 1 of the Menagerie in a moment. We are about to watch said part 1.
Okay, we'll get into why I'm saying this in a second, but what I think is telling me that the stakes are real and mean something is that Spock is actually wanting this.
Yeah. That we've said multiple times in these videos that Spock is the most interesting character in this show. And at first we were really pissed when we saw that he was doing some shady shit with Pike, but at the same time I was that actually is only just making him more interesting. I love this.
Right. And I'm sure we'll talk about kind of the key moments of the episode. Mm-hmm. But by the end, Spock is just don't let him stop me.
Yeah. And the fact that McCoy even points out that this isn't just some ruse. They're not gonna pull a fast one. I hope they're not gonna pull a fast one on us with Spock's character, because McCoy even points out that he can't lie to us. You know.
Right.
So
it's about as ingrained in his DNA as we could say it is.
Yeah. And I really like that aspect of this. It's a really cool episode. Also really cool about this is that we see our second of ever human voyage out into space. We know that there are other ships out there that have got to be exploring strange new worlds and all that shit.
Right. But they're probably all of Enterprise style. But...
Yeah. But we meet the crew of the Starbase 2 in this, and first off, the ship looks like a lunchbox. I said that a couple of times. Yeah. It looks like I could carry it around. I want a Starbase 2 lunchbox. I'm sure that exists.
Right, and it comes from a colony planet or something.
Mm-hmm. At first, I got kind of excited because we started on this sort of almost outdoorsy looking area, and I was like, "Ooh, is this like the academy where all the people on the ship go to?" But I guess not, because I got excited because it was a different kind of badge that they were wearing. I was like, "Yeah, it's a different ship." But,
I'm guessing.
I mean, it's still an interesting thing that we haven't seen yet in this show.
But I'm guessing the different badge just denotes that they are operating on Starbase 2.
Yeah. We meet Captain Mendez here. He runs the Starbase 2.
I don't know if he's a captain. I don't remember what I know he's not a captain.
Oh, he's not a captain?
Because he's a rank above Kirk even.
Oh, that's right. Okay. I forget what rank they said then.
He's a colonel or something.
Yeah.
But there's Mendez and he's
cool. And speaking of captains, we meet Pike here. We meet Chris Pike, which I kept laughing at throughout, because it sounds like Chris Pine, and I know that he's Kirk in the J.J. Abrams
It
films.
does make it easy to remember his name, though.
It does, yeah, Chris Pike, who was the captain before Kirk, and was the captain from The Cage, the pilot episode of Star Trek. So we see that something has happened to him. We don't know what yet. That he has become Davros from Doctor Who, or Hector Salamanca from Breaking Bad. I don't know. I just think it's really funny. Not that disability is funny or anything, but just I don't know. Just the way he's portrayed is kind of funny here. But also, I'm really interested to see what happened to him that he's like this.
Right. Although I doubt the cage has anything to do with it.
Yeah, which is really weird because we use him being here as an opportunity to use the footage from the cage, but also the Cage was written with the idea that the show would just keep going with these characters. So how can it be relevant to why Spock is trying to work with Pike here?
Right, and essentially essentially committing treason.
Yeah. It's just really weird. But also just like I love that early intrigue of the episode of seeing Spock at least seeming to betray Kirk, which he definitely does.
Oh, like we could definitely say he did that.
Mm-hmm. Also interesting, just a small thing that I have in my notes here. Helen gets mentioned again, which she hasn't shown up yet, but I mean, hey, it's a good sign, you know, because I said I wanted her to come back after Dagger of the Mind. And, who knows? Maybe we'll see her again. But yes, so Spock like tricks the crew of the Enterprise into like letting him take command and giving the command over to the computers and
then having the computers only be stopped by him.
Yeah. Also, McCoy is very like he's very interesting throughout this, but mostly I really like the idea that like he does. He doesn't trust Spock really. I mean, like at first when Kirk like mentions that like he doesn't trust Spock right now, McCoy is against that. But then he starts to see that like something is not right, and he only goes along with it because he has to, because Spock outranks him.
Yeah.
And but yeah. So Spock gives himself up though eventually after all this.
Well, I think he only did it because Kirk was like right behind him in the Starbase 2 lunchbox ship.
Yeah. Well, also like I feel like I mean they're still going to Talos 4, right?
Yeah, the computer is sending them there, and Spock's the only one that can stop it.
Yeah, and he's not stopping it. He's not willingly stopping it.
No.
At least. So apparently, recounting the events of the pilot episode, The Cage, is going to have something to do with
why they're going there.
Yeah. Also, they pronounce it like 3 different ways throughout the. It's like Talos, Talos. They say Telos at some point, which is just a Doctor Who planet.
Right.
Like it's really funny.
Like they couldn't get all the actors on the same page for some reason.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but we see the events of The Cage, and we see that like first you pointed out that Spock actually does look like different because they did his makeup different for the pilot.
Yeah,
just enough to like make it look that like it's 13 years ago is the idea.
Well, I think it's more that when they started shooting the show in earnest, they were like, okay, we want to use this footage somehow.
Yeah, well,
let's do some implied time jumping.
Yeah, and also like I don't think this needed to be 2 parts, right? Like I really don't.
I mean, unless the second part,
because like there are some bits like they could have cut from The Cage.
Oh, yeah.
And it just told a more concise story. And also, like, the last scene in particular, I was like, wow, this is really dragged out. Like, there are just long moments where nobody's talking, and they're clearly just biding their time. You know?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you called out a moment where Pike is talking to the on-ship doctor, and we're like, man, was this necessary?
It's a good scene, actually.
Oh, it's a
cool scene. And honestly, I like Pike as a character. Like, I know there's a whole show about him eventually. It's a prequel show to TOS.
Right.
I know there's like a whole show about him. So like I don't know, maybe we'll see more of that there. But I liked what we saw here. You know, outside of Spock, Pike's crew had like none of the people that are currently on the Enterprise. So they're all new characters. The only ones that actually get moments are Spock and this Doctor character that Pike talks to at one point.
Right, but if you notice, it's still the same basic dynamic.
Oh yeah, because the Doctor's basically Dr. McCoy. You know, Pike is basically Kirk. You know, right down to him immediately hitting on the first woman he sees on an alien planet.
Yeah.
You know?
I will say though, I don't know what's gonna happen, but I think there's a reason it's 2 parts. I think it's to stretch out the usage of the footage from The Cage.
Definitely.
In a justifiable manner. But I also have this feeling, like, because the idea was no one saw The Cage at the time you told me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I think the idea was they're probably going to cut off the ending of The Cage somehow.
Yeah, and maybe, like, rework it. Unless maybe the idea is that The Cage is still somehow canon. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to know. Like, don't tell us in the comments. Like, we're gonna find this out eventually. Someday we're gonna watch The Cage in earnest, just as an individual product.
Yeah.
And we'll watch Enterprise someday. I'm sure.
But like without, like, just at the moment, my bet is that like they're gonna probably cut off the end of The Cage somehow, and like rework like how the ending makes sense,
Yeah.
to imply, oh, this is why Pike is now Davros.
Yeah. It's, but yeah, also in the cage, we saw some aliens. They're like, they have like bloated brains or something. You know?
Yeah.
They look like some very generic sci-fi aliens, but I do like the costumes. They're pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a pretty safe. They're nice, but it's a safe. Like, here's a pilot alien.
Yeah, like right down to the point where like. I kind of joked at one point as I knew we were getting close to the end of the episode. The lady that Pike is flirting with, she takes him up to this like cliff top. She disappears. These brain-head aliens come out and they take Pike away, and they try to break through the cave entrance, and it doesn't work.
They're shooting it with the phasers.
And I was like, are they gonna turn the midway point of the pilot episode that was never supposed to air into a cliffhanger? Because that would be perfect. That's not what happens, unfortunately.
Well, I mean, it's kind of, just not as directly.
Yeah. So that's where like the sort of flashbacks cut off, but then we go into the trial, hearing, whatever, court martial, and they sort of start to like reach a conclusion on Spock. Kirk tells them to take Spock away, and so Spock like pleads with Kirk. He's like, hey, just look at the rest of the transmission. Like only you have to look at it. Even just please look at the rest of it. And he's just begging us to watch the rest of the pilot.
Circling back to how we started this thought. This is something Spock wants.
Yeah.
We don't see that often.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Spock doesn't want things.
Right, which sounds weird.
Yeah. Now they could really play around with this, though, because as they point out, though, it's like Pike doesn't have a way of communicating beyond yes and no.
Right.
So whatever Spock is planning here with Pike, like it's not anything intricate. It's not something that like Pike is actively playing a role in.
No, he's essentially just to sit there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's up to Spock. Like Pike can't defend or be against Spock. We don't actually know what the goal here is yet, or if Spock is even working within Pike's interests right now.
Right, like, I mean, I'm sure
There's a lot of wiggle room, and it's actually pretty exciting, because, like, I don't know, I kind of wish there were more two-part stories here in the original series, because I like this discussion, I like speculating where we're going. If we were to try to do that from this point on, we'd have to, like, stop each episode halfway through.
Yeah, right, and then that would just be massively artificial.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I like this, I like having this kind of discussion. It's very different, very fun. That said, though, I am very excited for next week when we watch part 2. So,
indeed.
Be sure to join us then. Until then, this has been Joey Morgan.
I'm Jacob.
Goodbye.